Hi everybody, and welcome back to this week's video. And you'll be very excited to hear I have another little diagram for you in terms of what I'm pointing you towards this week. And really this week is just another metaphor, things I've been seeing more clearly over the last couple of weeks about how the system works, if you like, how our psychology works, how anxiety gets created, where mental health comes from. And at this point in the program, I kind of feel like we've spent a load of time talking about anxiety. And what I want to point you towards is I want us to spend some time exploring mental health and starting to look in that direction going forwards. Because the more time we spend thinking and analysing and trying to work out what's going on with our anxiety, like that's just making anxiety look more and more real. Like it really is a problem that we have to contend with. I've got a blog post I'm going to share with you under this video that kind of points in this direction as well to explain more what I mean by that. But in the next few weeks in this program, we're going to be talking about mental health and resilience and clarity and creativity and fresh thinking and ideas. And I just want to there's a conversation about anxiety that goes this way, and there's a conversation about mental health that goes this way. And although you might be sitting there thinking, hang on a minute, I haven't sorted my anxiety out yet, don't start talking about something else, I want to go this way. What I can promise you is the more that we go over here and talk about this, you're going to look over and your anxiety is just going to look different. Okay, so trust me on this one. I know it can feel like it's not fixed yet, and I know hopefully for some of you following last week's video that's not even a big deal, but I know that by looking over here, this starts to fade into insignificance. Okay, so wait for it. Here's my lovely diagram for this week. So this is a kind of new way I've been seeing how the principles work, and it's a bit similar to the diagram I shared in the first week. But let me share this with you. So here's what I see: is we have this huge, infinite space that is our common sense. That is our peace of mind. That is our capacity for love and joy, and it's limitless, and it's like a huge infinite space. It's the potential before form. It's formless. It's what there is just before things come into form. Right? It's the best way I have of describing it. Mind, if you like. But if you think about it as common sense and it's a neutral space, it's a blank space, it's formless, right? So any words I try and use to describe it are pretty pointless. But when I think about it, the feeling that comes to me is neutral, common, impersonal. It's not about me, it's like this, something bigger. Common sense, we're going to call it here. And that's what we all have. That's our innate well-being. If we think of ourselves as the sky, it's the blank slate. It's what we all share. It's what we all are before our personalities, before all our thinking, before our experiences. It's the big oneness, if you like, that we're all connected to, are part of, are made of. It's the thing we all have in common. It's the thing that makes you and me the same, and every other person on this planet and every other thing that exists, right? It's that, and it's really impersonal. And then from that, each of us over time builds up this kind of belief system, this thought system, this way of these kind of thinking patterns and assumptions and deep-rooted beliefs about the way the world works, about what's truly important, about, that are given to us by our family and our friends and our society and our culture and the period of history we live in and the gender that we are, and all those kind of things in the outside world that kind of get imprinted onto our human psyche when we come into the world. We don't have any of this when we're born, but over time we pick up this whole collection of beliefs. And the way that it kind of came to mind when I was thinking about creating this video for you, and I don't ask me why, I'm not in charge of what comes into my head, but this is what came into my head, the image that came to mind was like this board with a snarl and snaggly loads of wires on it, right? Like just a huge board here with all these snaggly wires, all made up of my beliefs about who I am and what I'm up to and what's important and how my children should behave and whether I should or shouldn't be able to go into a supermarket or drive down a motorway, any thoughts I have about any of my health issues, like just anything I think and believe to be true. Most of it without questioning at all. And this common sense that we have gets filtered through this tangle of wires. And this is our reality. This is the reality that we experience, that life works this way. And then through here, as we filter everything through, this creates our experience, our feelings here, right? Because our feelings are a reflection of our thinking. So if this has got a load of anxious wiring in it, we'll tend to feel anxious a lot of the time, right? If this is highly attuned to any kind of anxious thinking or anxious feeling, like, are my palms sweating? Are my palms sweating? Oh my God, I'm going to have another panic attack, right? They're just highly attuned to that as all in here. Right? And we have our feelings, and from those feelings, we have behaviors that come from those feelings. So like, I don't like the sweaty palms, or I just better get back inside, right? So we have all this thinking here, then we have these feelings and resulting in this behavior. But what's really cool and so simple is the only thing that we need to do is get an understanding of the fact that this is how the system works. That we are not this, we are this. Like when we have no understanding of the principles, we think this is who we are. We think that this is all there is in life. We think it's true that motorways are scary. We think it's true that our husband should talk to us in a particular way. We think that it's true that what the money in our bank account can make us feel a certain way. Like that's just true. And we start to get an understanding of the principles, and we start to see that we are filtering our experience through this and creating something that looks really real to us. We can't escape this. This is our spiritual nature. This is, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. We can't escape this. If we escape this, we wouldn't have a human experience. But we are made of this. And the key to moving through anxiety is starting to see the separation between the two, like that you are not this, that this massive insecurity, which is another word for anxiety, right? Insecure thinking it's a filter that when we're out in the world, everything looks like it's anxiety causing, right? Because we've got all this anxiety gnarly wiring going on in here. And then we kind of, so what I want to point you to is that if you're looking for something to do, right, like how do I get rid of my anxiety? How do I experience more mental health? It's simply starting to see that this is how the system works, that, oh, there's this that I didn't even know existed. Like, what would it be like to tap into this? And this is one of the reasons why some of you are struggling and getting feedback from some of you going, I get it, but only intellectually, or I get it, but it's not making a difference, or I don't get it at all, I don't really know what you're talking about. You are trying to use this to understand it. And this is got all our beliefs and our knowledge and our experience and everything else we already think already in here. So any attempt to try and understand the principles using this is a futile attempt, because you're trying to analyze this using this. It's that thing that Einstein would point to about you can't solve a problem at the same level it's been created. You're using your thoughts, your intellect, your everything to try and understand this so hard, so desperately, because that's how we've been taught to understand things, is to engage the intellect and try and work through and figure it out. But somehow just knowing that this is where the answers lie, the answers don't lie here. The answers to any questions you have always lie here, in the unknown, in that huge open neutral space, in your common sense. this is the difference between, I don't know, these examples coming to mind. This takes care of us knowing when we need to go to the toilet. We don't have to figure it out. We don't have to, for most of us, right? Sometimes if you've got that toilet anxiety thing, this happens here as well. But for most people, like, we just know when to go to the toilet. I couldn't tell you how many times I've been today. I couldn't tell you anything about my experience of going to the toilet. I just, when I needed to go, I got up and I went. And I had no thinking about it whatsoever. Here, if I'm on a diet, for example, like, I'm going to have so much thinking about when to eat and what time to eat and how I should be eating and the best way to eat and what I should be eating, all that stuff. It's going to feel like a struggle and it's going to feel like hard work and I'm going to have to figure it out. But what I'm pointing you to is that life has the capacity to be as simple as knowing when to go to the toilet in terms of how to move forward with things. And what I'm hoping is, through these videos and through this conversation, that if you even understand this is how the system works, you start to get a feel for it, this is going to get triggered. And instead of what I'm pointing to being yet another really good idea or concept, and why should I believe in that one, right? Why should I believe what you're saying? Like, why is yours true and not all the other therapies? Like, why are you saying yours is true and nothing else is? Is because what I'm saying is, don't listen to my words and intellectually try and grasp and understand, because what I'm sharing with you is not a concept. It's not yet another theory and idea about how anxiety works. What I'm hoping through this conversation is that this gets woken up in you and you have your own insights into your anxiety, more importantly into your mental health, and really importantly, insights into how this system works. Because it's all you need to do is get an understanding that you are not your thinking, that your thinking occurs to you, that trying to get involved and deal with it when it's here is too late. All we can do in this bit when we're having a panic attack is have a panic attack, right? Deal with it the best we can. But the more we look to here and the more insight we get about this shifts, this rearranges itself all on its own. And what gets produced out the other side changes and shifts and becomes more anxiety free. And for me, I can have this real experience of the separation where I can get lost in my fearful and doubtful thinking. And I know I'm doing that because there's a feeling of that. There's a feeling like discomfort and struggle and suffering and trying to figure it out and being doubtful and not sure and underconfident. None of that feels good. And for me, that's like a rumble strip. When I start feeling like that, and I do, right? Human beings do all the time. It's not like you get to a place where that never happens, right? But when I'm caught up in my head and I'm trying to figure stuff out, I wake up to the fact that I'm juggling with the wires, right? Like, I'm lost. There's no answers in here. And there's something in that wakes me up, and I fall back out of it, and I come back to this space, and I go back to I don't know the answer. And through this space, inspiration comes and insight comes, and knowing what to do that's as obvious and common sense as when to go to the toilet. So I don't know if this triggers anything for you, but you will know if you're listening and you're trying to do this with it, right? You're trying to filter it through everything. We can't help but do that. But for me to know that, like, when I read a book, I'm not trying to understand and figure out all the motives and work out why this character did this and why did they say that and not the other thing, and is what he's saying true or not. Like, totally, that takes the enjoyment out of a book for me. I used to do film studies when I was at university, and I used to really, really enjoy film and going to the movies and watching films until I did film studies. Because when I used to go to a film, I'd just go and get sucked into the whole experience of it and just let it wash over me, and I'd feel the highs and the scary bits and the sad bits and the lovely bits and the tears and the laughter, and just be moved by the movie. And then when I started studying film studies, like I started trying to analyze the mise en scène and the characters' motivations and who's the protagonist, and is this a Hollywood storyline or is it, you know, a French noir movie, and like all these kind of analytical intellect came into the experience of watching a movie, and I stopped enjoying the movies so much. Now, what I'm asking when you're listening to these videos, and it might be that you go back and listen all the way from the start again, is to listen like you're watching a movie, or listen like you're reading a book, like just for the enjoyment of it. Because how these insights, how this space gets freed up for you, hang on, how this space gets freed up from you is not through understanding and oh yeah, got it, right? Is you notice that you go into a nice feeling. Weird, eh? But like in that nice feeling, that's the space through which insights come. So when you're listening, just for enjoyment, like listen for enjoyment. And when you get that nice feeling, like turn off the video, go out and live your life. Enjoy that nice feeling and insight will come. This is such a different way of going about eliminating the experience of anxiety. I know it sounds controversial, but I'd love to hear your thoughts again this week. I really hope you see something fresh and different, and that my newest diagram was useful to you. Okay, I'll speak to you next week. Post any questions in the Facebook group. I'd love to hear them.